Hey everybody, so today we're going to be making a quick lesson. This lesson's actually pretty short on the applications of percents. We've kind of already gone over taxes, we've gone over markups, markdowns, how to create those. But today what we're going to be going over is something called interest. Now, in life, you're going to be taking out loans, you're going to borrow money from the bank, you're going to borrow money from something that's going to require interest. Now, how this interest affects how much money you have to pay back is really important to know. So this lesson today is specifically going to talk about interest and how it affects how much you're going to be paying back. This is the last lesson that you're going to be learning before your quiz. So this quiz we're going to spend about a week and a half to maybe 2 weeks reviewing and covering everything we've gone over. This is ratios, proportions, percents, markups, markdowns, things like that. And we're going to go over everything and hopefully have you ready before the quiz, because this is going to be a pretty good portion of your assessment grade for the trimester, because this will be like the last thing that you do before the trimester ends. So really quickly, interest. Specifically, we're going to be talking about simple interest. So this is the first kind of interest you're going to learn. You'll learn a different kind of interest a few years from now, but right now you're going to learn simple interest. Now, simple interest requires the knowledge of a couple of things. The equation for simple interest, first of all, is always going to equal to P times R times T. Now, P stands for principal. Now, this is not talking about Ms. Carrillo. This is not the head of a school. This is talking about the original amount of money that is borrowed or deposited. R stands for rate. So this is the the percent of interest written as a decimal. And then T stands for time. Pretty much, how long have you owed or saved money? All right. So once you know the value of these three things, in order to find your simple interest, you just multiply them together. And I'll kind of show you how that looks like. So example 1, Marcus buys a varsity jacket from a clothing store in Arlington. The price, well, this doesn't really work for interest. Let's try this one. Terry deposits $200 into a bank account that earns 3% simple interest per year. What's the total amount in the account after 2 years? All right. The first thing you should do when you're trying to figure out simple interest is, by the way, we know it's a simple interest problem because they literally say 3% simple interest. As soon as you see the words simple interest, this is what should come to mind. You should think about that. So here, we need to figure out what's our principal, what is our rate, and what is our time. Well, how much did he deposit? He deposited $200. It was a 3% simple interest, which this is the percent version. Remember, we want it in the decimal version. And for those of you who remember how to convert from a percent to a decimal, you just take your percent and you divide by 100. Now, when you divide by 100, that means you move the decimal place to the left. So you get 0.03. Now, this works for any decimal. You can literally have 25%. Oh, that's not a percent sign, please. There we go. And then you just move the decimal place, which was originally here, to the left. So this is 0.25. You could have 7%. Again, I'm just going to move to the left. So the decimal equivalent is 0.07. So all you do is you take your decimal point, move it to the left. Then you get your decimal. So back to this. We found our rate, which is 0.03. And then our time. How long did this happen for? This happened for 2 years. All right, so t equals 2. So really what's happening here is simple interest is equal to my principal, which is 200, my rate, which is 0.03, and my time, which is 2. Now remember, this is multiplication, which means it doesn't matter which one I want to multiply first. I can multiply any two that I want, and it doesn't matter, thanks to the commutative property. Now, I'm always going to choose the thing that is easiest to do. Always. It's just, there's no point in making it harder. So I'm going to choose this one and this one to multiply first. So these two multiply together. 200 times 2, 400. Okay, so I got simple interest is equal to 400, and I didn't touch the 0.03 yet. So I still got to multiply those. And now I can do 400 multiplied by 0.03. 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 4 is 12, 0, 0 times 0 is 0, 0, 0. So I get 12. There are 2 decimals in the problem, so there are 2 decimals in the answer. So that means that my simple interest is equal to 12. Now, careful with this next part. You have just solved for the interest. That means that this is the amount that is being added on to your account. Originally, there were $200. The interest is what you add onto it. So right now, if we were to look at this as like a graph, this is where we're at currently. This is $200. Let me see if I can write this legibly. Great. Now, if only I did it a little bit to the right. There we go. $200. This is $200. This $12 is what I'm adding on top of it. Good enough. $12 is my simple interest, which means if they're asking for my total amount, that means I'm going to add these together. 200 plus 12 is $212 total. Now, sometimes they'll ask you for just the interest. Sometimes they'll ask for the total. It really depends on the question. However, just know that this equation here is not the final answer if they want the total amount. This is the interest. You still need to add it to your principal to get the total amount. So let's try another one. So here we have Ariane borrows $400 on a 4-year loan. She's charged a 5% simple interest per year. How much interest is charged for 4 years? What's the total amount she has to pay back? Okay. So again, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out what's our P, what's our R, and what's our T. Because we know that simple interest is P times R times T. Okay. So P, principal. She borrowed $400. Awesome. She's charged 5% simple interest. So 5%, if I wanted to write this as a decimal, I'm going to take this and move to the left. So which means that it is 0.05. And if you need me to go over this more, I definitely can. Just please ask me during class. This is a very important skill to have for this lesson. And if you don't know how to do it, sorry, but you're going to be a little stuck. So again, and then 4 years. She's charged for 4 years, so my T is 4. So again, principal. What did they start out with? What did they borrow? What did they deposit? What's the money? Rate. That's always going to be your simple interest percent as a decimal. T, time. How long did this go on for? So now I'm just going to plug those in. So that means that my simple interest is equal to 400 times 0.05 times 4. Again, I'm going to choose the 2 easiest things to multiply. So I'm going to multiply that. And that 4 times 400 is 1600 times 0.05. So if we have 1600 times 0.05, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 6 is 30, carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. Carry the 0. Drop a 0, so 0 times 0 is 0, 0 times 0 is 0, 0 times 0 is 0, 0 times 0 is 0. Add them all together. There are 2 decimals in the problem, so there are 2 decimals in the answer. Voila. So that means that my simple interest is $80. Now, what is the total amount she has to pay back? Remember, this is just my interest. This is just my stuff that I'm adding on. So right here, I have my principal. This is the original amount that I owed, which is 400 bucks. And now I'm going to add on 80 to it for a total of $480. Now, this is how interest works. This is how banks make money. Banks are going to let you borrow this 400, but when you pay it back, you have to give this interest, depending on how long it took you to pay it back. That's why you should always pay off your loans very quickly, because the more quickly that you pay it off, the smaller this T is going to be, and the smaller this number is going to be. Because this is just free money. They're not losing any money here. It costs them nothing to do this because they're going to get this 400 back. It's like they never lost it. But they're also going to get $80 just for letting you use it for a bit. So this is interest. This is something that you're going to have to deal with in your life as you grow up when you borrow money for a house, if you borrow money for college, borrow money for a car. Any one of those things is going to have interest. So you have to be careful and you have to know how each one of these things comes into play, because if you don't and you take forever to pay it off, this time is only going to go up, 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 and the total value is going to go up, up, up. And you're just going to be paying extra money on top of your principal for no reason. So please take this to heart, write down these vocabulary and get to know it. So that's it for today. This next part we're going to go over, but it's not a new thing. This is not new. It's just taking everything that you learned before and mixing it together, which I think would work better together. So we'll work this out in class, but for now, this is the only thing you need to know. All right. Have a good day, and I'll see you on Tuesday.